good afternoon. I'm really not in the place for this live stream. It's just I can't turn away anything right at this moment that will help me focus and just get a few essentials in place for the flood I had on my boat a few days back. Nice Christmas present from Father Christmas. And I'm at the point now where it's all sealed. It shouldn't flood again, but there's still a lot of water on the boat that I need to get out of it. Not because anything other than when you're living with moisture in the air and it's cold, it makes it a lot colder. And the second reason is because what got flooded was a few £1,000s worth of supplies I had that was going to be invaluable in the coming months. I need to find out what's going to be saved, and it's been 2-3 days since I've been able to get to it. So the longer I leave it, the more waste there's going to be. And if anybody knows me, I can't deal with waste, you know. And it was like last night. Fair enough, if I'm tired and I need to rest, I'll rest. But it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I must have had a little rest. I had a little lie down, and I got up to carry on. And my physical health wouldn't let me. So I just had to lie down again, and I'm only getting around to being able to deal with it now, because my mental health always wants me to wake up at 9:20 in the morning, and it's become so traumatic it's turned into PTSD. And not for all the money in the for all the money in the world, I'm sure I'd suffer PTSD, but I can't put myself through it. I couldn't put that's what happened today. I couldn't put myself through waking up at that time, and it's been delayed again. So I'm getting around to it now, and on an emotional level, I'm so bitter and cold as a person. But I'm bitter and cold as a person with health problems. And unfortunately, I don't know if you've ever done maths, but 0 times 0 equals 0. That makes sense. 0 times 1 still equals 0. In other words, I know positivity, being active and focused, despite the unbelievable depression in my life, I still have to get up and live life. And if I don't, it's going to make it harder. So in the first instance, I can't deal with PTSD at this level on top of the depression, but when it's just the depression and shitness and aloneness and everything else, I'll do whatever's needed. I'll make myself positive to for the sake of life going forward, because it makes sense. I live from my mind. I don't know where other people live from. Not in criticism, but from the perspective of my autism, I don't understand people. So I thought I'd make a live stream, and for whatever reason, today's topic... I had the news on for the first time in about 4 or 5... No, it's been a while. I normally wake up in the mornings, and as I'm getting ready, it's just nice to have something on to distract myself from my problems. And I hate the news. I've never been a news person, politics and all of that. Steer well away. We're going to go to somewhere where it's a bit darker. Hopefully we'll find a place where you can still see me a bit. But I'd normally have listened to Sky Sports News. They had an app once upon a time, and it was a reasonable amount to listen to it. And I used to have it on all the time. I'm going to be off camera, but I'm going to still talk. I can't bother to keep turning the camera. I need to get some gloves. And with Sky Sports News, it's just as bad as politics, really. It's just as obscene, just as corrupt, just as bad for the soul and mind as politics is. But unfortunately, I'm also human. And where I've not really got into politics in this life, because when I wanted to change classes at college and take up politics, I was asked the question, who's the candidate for Chingford or Waltham Forest or something like that? I can't remember at the time. And it stumped me. The reason is because it was Ian Duncan Smith. And Ian Duncan Smith was not only the candidate for Waltham Forest, but he was the Conservative leader. And I didn't know enough about politics at the time to say, well, it just put a stopper in my head. And I didn't end up managing to change classes. It could be for the better, could be for the worst. But either way, I've not been into politics in this life, and I have been into sport. It was something I shared with my dad and my friends growing up. So despite how corrupt it is, I can just put it on and get something from it. But at present, Sky Sports have stopped that service on the application, on the app, on the phone. So I just put Sky News on YouTube because it's free. It's that sort of. I listen to it because it's the tone of speech. News is corrupt. You know, both we just said both are bad as each other, really. But the tone that they speak at is like, yes, forget about all the bollocks and forget about all the corruption and forget about how this will ruin your life. We are talking absolute sense. And that's the absolute truth. I listen to it because the tone of speech is like somebody speaking sense. And that's all I want in the mornings. So I've put it on today, and I've been listening to it because the depression has stopped me for quite a while now. And just trying to find the drill and everything that I got ready 2 seconds ago. There it is. So that's what I listen to in the mornings, and it sent my mind this way. So I thought I'd make a live stream about to reiterate, you know, what the fuck are we doing as humans? In this idiot's head, because I am an idiot, but unfortunately my mind always goes to the same compassionate causes in terms of mind. Here we go, we can get started. In other words, I see the problems in the world thanks to I'd say predominantly my uncle's teachings and influence he's had on my life. He's taught me to be aware of others suffering in this world. And I'm very much locked into that as a reality, constant reality. And where I've got a mental health disorder and I'm on the outside of society, it's really easy to observe and be aware all the time of the injustices, and that's something that comes naturally to me, justice and injustice. I said to my mum once, she asked me, what do you want to do in your life, Andreas? I said, I want to be a lawyer. And she said, yeah, but be a lawyer for justice, good causes. And it resonated with me. I didn't think much about it, but it makes absolute sense. I've always been about justice. There's something about Lady Justice that appeals to me. The statue, she's holding a scale of balance in one hand and a sword in the other hand. If I didn't have a beard and had some breasts, it could almost be me. Well, not right now. I don't think I could hold my arms out sideways with my health problems. But what I'm trying to get at is, in this idiot's head is the solution to the world's problems. And the world is pretty fucked up. But in real coming together as a species, we could eradicate hunger, we could eradicate poverty, we could eradicate all the problems we see in the world with relative ease. Yes, those who have will have to go without a little bit, but we're in it together, man. Those who have now. What happens in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years when we're not so lucky here in Europe, and the African Union has sprung up and they're killing it, or the South American, whatever it's called down there, they're killing it, and we haven't got the money anymore. We'll suffer. And that won't be fair either. Well, it kind of will be, because it will be like karma to us, but it's our opportunity to take control of it and steer it into a compassionate direction. And essentially, I want to share the solution again to our problems. And that is what we need to do is, fuck it, we've got like North Korea as the fucking only last remaining stand in this world as something separate to, well, the collective other system, and that is the capitalist world. I'm not saying my views on capitalism right now, but what we do, we come around the table and every country gets on board. They all agree we're all human. and there's people suffering. And we're fighting each other as nations to make our own circumstance better. We're coming around the table for global warming conferences with the fine wines for the leaders to sit there and figure out how they can improve the world while maintaining their own war against other nations, because that's what it is, capitalism. You're at war with everybody. You're in it for yourself. It's dog eat dog. And any face that's shown around the table in terms of doing anything for the world, it's just front and show, isn't it? How is it possible truly for China to come around the table and say, yeah, we've got to do something about global warming. We're going to cut our emissions and coal, and we're going to be the forerunners. Why are we going to do that? The world's all about money, and we're just going to be the top. And unfortunately, it was America that gave them the showed them the way, because it was America that was doing that before. So China's just copied and said, right, fuck it. We want money, we want prosperity. So the current model doesn't work. The current model does not work. And what we need to do is create a new model. But you say, well, yeah, that's nice, but how do you do that? And I'm sorry, kids. We live in 2021, and I don't know if you know, but we're a advanced species now. And through our advancement, we've created this thing called technology. And if anybody likes technology, you'll know what we're capable of in terms of achieving if we fucking come together. We have things called supercomputers. We have things called quantum computers now. Basically, supercomputer is the powerhouse. A supercomputer is the pure end-to-end processing, endlessly massive amount of data. Where a quantum computer, think about it almost like a psychic. I can't, just in terms of input to output. Because you put in a problem and it comes out with the most optimal answer. Now, to find the most optimal answer, what you'll have to do with a normal supercomputer is say what we start with and all the input data and where we need to end up. And if you imagine that, this lighter is just a killer. And if you imagine that, what you're essentially asking is like, how many multiples of, say, 5 are there? How many multiples of 6 are there? So in other words, how many possible combinations are there with 6 input data? And you start to go into the thousands. So in other words, if you've got 6 digits, how many combinations of 6 digits are there? And then if you really want to go into something specific, like dealing with the world's problems, logistical problems and stuff like that, and you're talking about hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of input data, and each step along the way to achieving the task, you get more you get more more things to be considered. And then you have to go back, and then you reassess. Well, right, if we start and the first step looks like it's out of pardon me. So we start, and just gonna put some oregano oil on. It burns like hell, but it definitely opens the sinuses. I might be crying in a second. And each step along the way, you've got more data to consider. The optimal way forward is like, in the first step, the most optimal solution isn't always the best in the first step. The most optimal solution in the second step, as a result of the first step, isn't always the optimal solution in the third step, and so on and so on. So what you need to do, you need to go back each time and consider the less optimal solutions as equal to the most optimal solution in finding the most optimal solution overall. It probably doesn't make sense what I've said, but think of it like this. A quantum computer basically finds the most optimal way. And we have that technology now for the first time publicly as a species. The governments, the secret services, they've had this for a while. Why they haven't used it this way is probably because we're still locked into capitalism. Dog eat dog. We need to come together as a people and say, no, no more. We know we can see a way out of our problems as a species. Why aren't we doing it? So what we have to do is take and decommission these supercomputers from being used temporarily for the purposes of entertainment and telecommunications and all of the other things, and redirect them to dealing with the world's problems. And all it is a redistribution of the wealth and the reason. Well, no, wealth is out the window. We're in it as a species now. We're all rich, we're all poor. And it's to look at all the world's problems, like what active famines are there in the world? What active pandemics are there? What active problems are there in the world, and address those? What parts of the world have just experienced natural disasters and are in requirement of resources in that direction? And basically, with those all working and all the programmers in the world punching in the algorithms constantly, which speed things up, we get to a point very, very quickly where the poor begin to have what they need. The rich who have, maybe they stop getting the excess in their life, and the world's problems are addressed. I know I tried to give a technical explanation then, and it might not have made sense, but in simplicity, what I just ended it with a statement or two, a paragraph or two, a sentence or two, is it. It's that simple. We come round the table as a world and we say we can't do this anymore. We're all human. How can I sit here enjoying my brand new MacBook when there's a kid in the Sahara begging for water, praying for water, drinking dirty water? How can I sit here with my brand new Tesla that runs on electricity that comes from a grid that's still fucked and runs on coal, when there's people in Brazil in the favelas that are fucking have sewage in the streets next to them, or children in India at the age of 3 and 4 walking on piles and mountains and mountains, not in the Himalayas in search of spirituality, but in the search of something they can eat and sell, in terms of they're walking on human waste, not shit, but stuff we've just thrown in the bin. We send it to India. How is that possible? For the sake of a Tesla, because in the first instance it's electric, but in the second instance it's still running on coal. It's all a bit too wrong, it's all a bit too slow, it's all a bit too corrupt on a personal level. We have the way. We have the way to end suffering on a world level right now together. And if we do it this way, we can still keep our technology. We can still keep our systems. We can still keep everything. And all we're doing is just taking a little bit of care for everybody. By taking care for everybody, we can then truly sit round the table, and it doesn't matter if we're served fine wines or not, as world leaders, because we'll come up with a solution. I'd be happy for those world leaders to drink the most expensive, finest tasting wines that have ever been produced, if it means that they come up with a solution. But unfortunately, when you're coming around the table as individual nations with the current game and system, it's just not going to work. If we come around the table as individual nations that are in it for everybody, absolutely it will work. And if they need to get as drunk as fuck to find a solution, let them get as drunk as fuck. But don't fucking come around the table serving finest wines under the current setup and say, yeah, we've got this solution, we've got that solution in place, we've got this legislation, we've got this treaty. We'll be at it forever until we blow ourselves up. Now's the time. The technology is available. Why aren't we doing it? Why is it only this idiot that seems to be able to see it? So that's what I wanted to share. I might go into this more and more over the coming weeks, just to clarify and reiterate our capability and current potential. Do you not think the feeling of safety, of security, as on a personal level, in terms of survival and life, given well, given global warming, given the instability of the current system, wouldn't make your belly and your heart feel warm knowing that we're okay. The knowledge without as 50 a little bit, we're going without the newest tech, we're going, I don't really